Welcome back to the channel. I'm Big Mike, a certified personal trainer, nutritionist, and powerlifting instructor, and I just hit a PR. 485 pounds, damn near 3 times body weight for the first time on sumo, and it's only my second week training sumo. So if none of that stuff qualifies me for the do's and don'ts of switching to sumo, yeah, it probably doesn't. But I am another guy on the internet that maybe, just maybe, you should listen to. And if you don't think I am, check out my videos and subscribe to my channel, because who knows, you may change your mind. Or you may be on board on this video and think, okay, never mind. Now that I've watched some of his videos, this guy's an idiot. Cool, let's get started. So the first do of switching to sumo is going to be to get ready to get bullied and berated and just plain out made fun of on not only the internet, but also visually at the gym from everybody else. Even though they're not paying attention to you, they're thinking it. So there's your first do. The second do would have to be your setup, okay? When you're setting up for the sumo deadlift, you may have seen some people go out super, super wide. And if you try this, one, you'll potentially lose your balance, and two, you're probably not gonna have the best leverages starting out. So my suggestion is that you start out with something called froggy stance, which means your feet are just a little bit closer together, but your arms are still within your hips. You'll find that your hips aren't going to be very comfortable in that position, so you may need to improve your mobility before moving on to a wider stance. That being said, if your arms are already long and your femurs are short, so this part here, you may not even have to go that wide. And then you really would be cheating, because essentially the biggest, positive or pro to lifting sumo is probably the shorter range of motion. So yeah, you'll get again bullied because one, you're cheating, and two, you're potentially not getting enough range of motion to build like really big muscle, depending on your genetics, of course. But you could probably get away with it if you had that structure. So shorter arms, longer femurs, you may have to go out wider. And probably the third thing to consider, how do I put this? Remember that this is a hinge movement, okay? So just like the conventional deadlift, because they're both deadlifts, they are hip hinge movements, okay? So that means that your hips are gonna go back to start the movement, and your hips are gonna come forward to finish the movement out. This is true for both conventional and sumo. So whether you're doing it right or you're cheating, doing sumo. That's the joke. Most clients that I've had think of any sort of deadlift, even the squat, as just an up and down movement. And sure, you can make a case that it is, but more than anything in this movement, the deadlift, whether it be sumo or conventional, you are going to focus more on closing out the hips. And so you may have noticed some sumo deadlifters that look like they're just going up and down have a little bit of trouble on that lockout. And that's where that hip hinge movement really matters the most. So here's a little extra do. Remember that the sumo deadlift is going to have some flexion in the knees, okay? The conventional deadlift does too, but you could probably get away with a little bit less there. Here, depending on how close you stand, you're gonna have a little bit more flexion in your knees, and therefore your quads are really gonna help you on this beginning portion of the pull. So remember that if you have nice quads, but your hips just aren't used to this hinging movement, especially in this widened stance, this may be something you have to work on. Some hip extensions or glute bridges might help. All right, so now let's move on to the don'ts. So don't lift with your ego. Just because you can pull a certain amount with conventional stance doesn't mean you're gonna pull that or more your first time doing sumo. Maybe your second time, as I've just done myself, but again, it's gonna depend sort of on your leverages and how you're built. Please don't say that you're built different. The second don't would have to be, don't try to mimic every cue that you have for conventional for sumo. At least in my experience, I have found that they are just a little bit different in the way that people move. Again, I don't have to cue my quads on the conventional nearly as much as I have to cue them here. When I set up for the sumo deadlift, what I'm thinking about setting up is my quads. So what I like to do is push through my toes as I'm reaching down for the bar. From here, I'll try to engage my lats. Again, you might have a little bit of problem with this. Unconventional, you can kind of pull your elbows back and really retract and get that lat engagement kind of easy because your back isn't as much in the way. Here, your shoulders are already forward because your hips are so wide that now your lats are kind of like in your way a little bit. So you may have to like work on that a little bit. What am I at? The second don't? Am I at the second don't? No, it's the third don't. That's right. So the last don't for conventional to sumo is don't give up. Because what you'll find, or what you may find, is that sumo may not be as easy as everybody makes it out to be. You may struggle in this position for quite some time before you get into it. So again, start with lighter weights, really work on building up those cues until they become a style of technique for you, so something you don't really have to think about too hard, and then start to add a little bit of weight and progressively overload, okay? Because yeah, if a movement is hard at first and your ego gets a little butthurt, it can be tough to stick it through and really find the benefits of switching over to a new movement. So I guess that counts for just about everything, not just sumo. Anyway, that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and please congratulate me on my huge PR, because this was beltless, hook grip, and only my second week training sumo. So I think that's a pretty awesome accomplishment. But again, you know, say whatever you want in the comments below. Like the video if you like this type of content, and I will put out more if you guys do like this content. I think my record for like this type of video as far as likes go is like 15. So if we can get past that, I will put out more content like this. So subscribe to the channel, tell all your friends, share this video, and I will see you guys in the next flex.